Most people lose power the moment they believe morality protects them. It does not. Comforting beliefs create exposure. Exposure creates cost. Power does not announce itself. It observes. It waits. It positions. Genghis Khan is remembered for force. That memory is incomplete. His real advantage was awareness. He read terrain, people, timing, and expectation. He controlled pace before outcomes were visible. This is not about cruelty. This is about survival. This is about remaining intact in environments where others play without restraint. Good, predictable people move first. They reveal intent. They explain themselves. They react quickly to discomfort. Aware, strategic people delay. They reduce signal. They let others expose themselves. They decide when access is earned. Manipulation does not rely on aggression. It relies on reactions. It feeds on urgency. It thrives when silence is broken too soon. Silence creates uncertainty. Timing creates leverage. Expectation creates traps. Reaction creates exposure. What follows are principles of positioning. Observed, not taught. Used quietly, never explained. Most people fill silence with truth. They reveal motives to escape discomfort. They negotiate against themselves. Genghis Khan delayed responses to test alignment. Those who rushed exposed intent. Those who waited earned proximity. Reaction hands over leverage. Restraint regains position. Observation reveals the map. I see the game. I control the pace. I move with awareness. Urgency is rarely a sign of importance. More often, it is a signal of weakness. When someone pushes for speed, they are usually trying to bypass awareness. They want action before understanding. Pressure is applied not to help you move forward, but to prevent you from seeing clearly. In those moments, speed becomes exposure. Mistakes multiply. Control slips. Those who understand power do not rush. They slow the environment down. They allow time to stretch, because time reveals what words try to hide. When decisions are delayed, patterns emerge. Loyalty becomes visible. Inconsistency cannot maintain its shape for long. What is real remains steady. What is false begins to leak. Immediate reactions are convenient for manipulators. They lower the cost of interference. They reward impatience. Every fast response teaches others how to move you, how to rush you, how to pull you off balance. Delay changes the equation. Delay introduces friction. It forces the other side to invest more energy, more explanation, more effort. Many cannot sustain that pressure without revealing intent. Patience is not passivity. It is active observation. It is choosing to gather information instead of surrendering leverage. When you pause, you regain position. You watch tone shift. You notice who becomes uncomfortable. You see who pushes harder and who pulls away. The noise fades. The signal sharpens. In everyday situations, this principle is simple and familiar. Emails that demand immediate answers. Conversations that escalate quickly. Decisions framed as now or never. These moments are not emergencies. They are tests. When you slow your response, you change the dynamic. You move from being managed to managing the pace. I move with awareness. I control the pace. I see the game. Predictability feels safe. But safety built on habit is fragile. When behavior becomes routine, defenses quietly lower, patterns form, expectations harden, others begin to anticipate your moves before you make them. What feels like stability slowly turns into exposure. Consistency without awareness does not build trust, it builds access. And access, when unguarded, invites control. Those who understand power do not confuse reliability with rigidity. They remain grounded but never fixed. Genghis Khan understood this deeply. He did not rely on a single approach or a single path. He changed routes when they became familiar. He shifted timing when it became expected, not to confuse for the sake of confusion, but to prevent others from settling into certainty. Certainty breeds complacency. Complacency is where leverage is lost. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is deliberate variation. It is choosing when to be visible and when to withdraw. It is responding differently to similar situations so that no one can map you fully. When people cannot predict you, they hesitate. That hesitation creates space. Space restores control. The cost of interference rises because effort must increase and assumption no longer hold. Everyday life, predictability shows up quietly, always being available, always responding the same way, always explaining yourself. Over time, people stop asking and start expecting. When you vary your responses, when you pause instead of rushing, when you change, the rhythm, the dynamic shifts. You reclaim access to yourself. Awareness means noticing when patterns form. Control means breaking them intentionally. Patience allows others to adjust. Observation reveals who respects the boundary and who resents it. Strategic positioning is choosing not to be fully known, not because you are hiding, but because you are protecting leverage. I am unreadable. I control access. I move with awareness. Access shapes influence long before words do. Those who gain access gain leverage, not because they are stronger, but because they are closer. Most people underestimate this. They open doors too easily. They confuse familiarity with safety and visibility with trust. Over time, what was shared casually becomes a point of influence. Control fades not through force, but through availability. Those who understand positioning move differently. Access is never assumed. It is earned through consistency, respect, and time. It is never rushed, because speed benefits the one seeking entry, not the one granting it. When access is given slowly, its value increases. When it is protected, it shapes behavior around it. People adjust their tone. They measure their steps. They become aware of the cost. Overreaction is an invitation. Strong emotion signals where boundaries are soft. Defensiveness explains too much. Justification creates opening. Intrusion follows clarity that was never required. True control is quieter. Boundaries held without explanation do not invite negotiation. They do not provoke debate. They simply exist. Silence reinforces value because it refuses to convert boundaries into arguments. In everyday life, access appears in small, familiar ways. Constant availability. Immediate responses. Sharing thoughts before they are settled. Each one lowers the threshold. Each one teaches others how close they can stand. When you pause, when you limit availability, when you decide what remains private, the dynamic shifts. People sense the boundary even if it is never spoken. Awareness is recognizing when access has been given too freely. Control is adjusting without apology. Patience allows others to adapt to the new distance. Observation reveals who respects it and who resists it. Strategic positioning is not about shutting people out, but about deciding who comes closer and at what cost. I control access. I set the cost. I see the game. Emotion travels faster than intention. Before words are measured, emotion leaks position. It reveals what matters most, where attention is fixed and where pressure lands hardest. A raised voice, a rushed response, a visible shift in mood all communicate more than planned statements ever could. Emotion becomes information, and information becomes leverage in the hands of anyone paying attention. Those who understand power do not deny emotion. They recognize it, then contain it. Suppression creates tension. Concealment creates control. Strategic observers allow emotion to exist internally while choosing carefully when, where, and if it is revealed. They understand that timing gives emotion weight. Untimed emotion gives others a map. Reactions are especially costly. The moment emotion dictates behavior, position is exposed. Others learn what provokes movement, what creates urgency, what pulls focus. That knowledge invites pressure. Composure interrupts this cycle. Calm does not mean indifference, it means ownership. It signals that the situation is being processed, not absorbed. Stillness forces others to adjust their approach. In everyday interactions, this principle appears constantly. A sharp email, a tense conversation, a sudden demand. The instinct is to respond emotionally, to defend, to explain, to push back. But restraint changes the dynamic. When you pause, when your tone remains steady, when your body language stays contained, the atmosphere shifts. The other side feels the imbalance. They slow down, they reconsider. Authority quietly returns. Observation becomes sharper in stillness. You begin to notice who presses harder when you do not react. You see who grows uncomfortable in silence. You recognize patterns that were invisible while emotion was loud. Patience gives these patterns time to surface. Control grows not from dominance, but from discipline. Strategic positioning means choosing not to reveal everything you feel. It means protecting your internal state from becoming public leverage. When emotion no longer leads, clarity takes its place. Pace stabilizes, decisions strengthen. Influence deepens. I remain still. I move with awareness. I control the pace. Manipulators depend on movement. They rely on reaction to confirm control. When you respond immediately, you validate their approach and reduce the effort required to influence you. When that response does not come, tension builds. Uncertainty sets in. To regain control, they escalate. Pressure increases. Words sharpen. Demands grow louder. In that escalation, intent surfaces. Those who understand positioning do not interrupt this process. They allow it. Genghis Khan did not rush to counter every advance. He allowed opponents to misjudge distance, timing, and resolve. They moved forward believing momentum was theirs. In reality, they were revealing their limits. By the time a response came, exposure was complete and advantage was undeniable. Restraint is not retreat. It is a deliberate refusal to be pulled into another person's pace. When you hold position, others are forced to show their hand. Impatience becomes visible. Insecurity leaks out. The more someone pushes, the clearer their objective becomes. Observation turns escalation into information. In everyday situations, this appears in familiar ways. Someone presses for an answer. A conversation becomes more aggressive. Expectations rise quickly. The instinct is to meet the energy, to defend, to correct, to explain. But when you wait, the dynamic changes. The pressure no longer moves you. It begins to weigh on the person applying it. They reveal how much they need your response. Timing sharpens in stillness. You begin to see the moment when action will matter and when it will not. Control returns quietly because it was never surrendered. You are no longer reacting inside someone else's frame. You are allowing them to step beyond their balance point. Strategic positioning means understanding that not every move requires an answer. Some moves require space. Some require time. When you allow others to overextend, you preserve energy, gather clarity, and act only when position is secure. I wait. I see the game. I move with awareness. Action feels productive, but action without position quietly creates loss. Movement can look decisive while eroding leverage. When steps are taken without awareness, energy is spent and influence weakens. Noise increases, but authority does not. Influence is not built through constant motion. It is built through alignment. Those who understand strategy begin elsewhere. They begin with placement. Where you stand shapes what you can see and what others can reach. Who sees you and who does not determines how much pressure can be applied. Visibility is not neutral. It either strengthens position or exposes it. Strategic positioning accounts for this. Before anything moves, reaction is the fastest way to waste position. When you move in response to someone else's timing, you surrender control of the frame. Preparation restores it. Preparation is not delay for its own sake. It is the quiet work of assessing terrain, reading people, and identifying leverage. Control exists before motion, not after. When position is secure, action becomes efficient and precise. In everyday life, this principle shows up constantly. Speaking before understanding the room. Agreeing before knowing the cost. Responding before clarity is formed. These actions feel cooperative, but they often place you at a disadvantage. When you pause, when you observe, when you choose where to stand emotionally and socially, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer reacting. You are deciding. Observation sharpens judgment. Patience protects leverage. Restraint keeps options open. Strategic positioning means knowing when to step forward and when to remain still. It means recognizing that sometimes the most powerful move is refusing to move at all. When you hold position, others adjust. They wait. They reveal urgency. They expose expectations. You remain centered while the environment shifts around you. Action, when it finally comes, carries weight because it is supported by leverage, not impulse. I hold position. I control the pace. I see the game. Visibility feels powerful, but it often invites interference. The more you are seen, the more angles others have to reach you. Explanation increases that risk. Every detail offered becomes material for debate. Justification creates openings where none were required. What begins as clarity slowly turns into exposure. Those who understand control do the opposite. They reduce their surface area. Genghis Khan did not broadcast intent. Information was compartmentalized, access was limited, movement was concealed until position was secure. By minimizing what others could see, he minimized what others could influence. Silence was not absence. It was structure. Less signal creates fewer entry points. When you speak less, others guess more. Guessing leads to hesitation. Hesitation restores balance. Less reaction has the same effect. Emotional restraint removes leverage from those looking for it. When nothing is given freely, manipulation becomes expensive. Effort increases. Precision is required. Many fail at that stage. In everyday life, surface area expands quietly. Oversharing plans. Explaining decisions that needed no defense. Responding to every message immediately. Each action feels harmless, even polite. Over time, it teaches others how to access you, interrupt you, and influence your direction. Reducing surface area is simply choosing containment. Deciding what remains internal. Choosing when silence is stronger than response. Observation improves when exposure is limited. You see who presses when you say less. You notice who becomes uncomfortable with that explanation. Patience allows these reactions to unfold. Restraint keeps you from filling the space they create. Strategic positioning is not about secrecy for its own sake. It is about protecting leverage and preserving optionality. When your surface area is small, control sharpens. You are harder to read, harder to rush, harder to manipulate. Influence shifts quietly back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you removed the openings that gave it away. I remain contained. I control exposure. I move with awareness. People move according to what they expect. Expectations shape behavior, timing, and confidence. When patterns are familiar, actions become automatic. Comfort settles in. Control quietly shifts to whoever can predict the next move. Disrupting that expectation creates imbalance, and imbalance, when managed calmly, creates leverage. Those who understand strategy do not rush to meet expectation. They recognize that predictability stabilizes the environment for everyone except the one being predicted. Strategic leaders arrived earlier than expected or later than expected. They responded in ways that did not fit the pattern, not to confuse, but to reclaim control of the rhythm. When expectations collapse, others pause. They reassess. That pause is power. Reaction keeps the game running. It confirms the pattern and reassures others that their assumptions still work. Deviation breaks that reassurance. A delayed response. A neutral tone where emotion was expected. Silence where explanation was assumed. These moments shift the balance without confrontation. Control returns quietly because the frame has changed. In everyday life, expectations are everywhere. Being the one who always replies first, always agrees quickly, always reacts the same way. When you step outside that pattern, even slightly, the dynamic changes. People notice, they adjust. Some feel unsettled. That reaction is information. Awareness allows you to see when expectations are forming. Patience gives you space to discern. You repeat them intentionally. Restraint prevents you from rushing to restore comfort. Observation shows who depends on the pattern and who respects the shift. Strategic positioning means choosing when to align with expectations and when to let them collapse. I break patterns. I control the pace. I see the game. The need for closure feels natural, but it is rarely neutral. Closure restores comfort, not control. It gives the other side relief, explanation, and access they did not earn. For manipulators, closure is a reset. It opens the door again. It softens boundaries. It invites continued influence under the disguise of resolution. Those who understand positioning do not chase that comfort. Genghis Khan ended interactions on his terms. No explanation followed, no reassurance was offered. The absence of closure was intentional. It preserved distance. It protected leverage by leaving space unfinished. Authority remained intact, and uncontested, unfinished space creates gravity. It forces others to sit with uncertainty. That uncertainty shifts power quietly. When you refuse to explain, to justify, to smooth the ending, you deny others the ability to frame the outcome for themselves. Restraint maintains leverage because it removes material that could be used against you. Silence does not invite debate. It ends the exchange in everyday life. This shows up after tense conversations, difficult decisions, or broken expectations. The urge is to clarify, to soften, to make sure every one feels settled, but every extra word extends access. When you stop speaking, when you let the moment stand as it is, control returns to you. Observation reveals who respects the boundary and who pushes against it. Patience allows discomfort to exist without rushing to resolve it. Awareness recognizes when closure would cost position. Strategic positioning means knowing that not everything needs to be wrapped neatly. Some doors close best when they close quietly. I choose when it ends. I control access. I move with awareness. Power is often misunderstood because it is quiet. It does not announce itself through aggression or volume. It appears in awareness held steady under pressure. When urgency tries to pull you forward and you do not move, it shows itself in restraint. When reaction is expected and silence becomes a choice rather than a weakness. In moments where noise is demanded, stillness becomes a statement. Good people naturally seek fairness. They want balance, clarity, and resolution. Strategic people understand something deeper. They seek position. Position shapes what is possible long before outcomes are visible. When position is secure, fairness becomes optional. When position is lost, even fairness offers no protection. Outcomes are decided not by intent, but by placement. To be unreadable is not to be cold, it is to be contained. It is refusing to give away information before it has value. Slowness is not hesitation, it is patience applied with purpose. When you move slowly, others reveal their urgency. When you become expensive to manipulate, interference fades on its own. Control begins with pace. When you set the rhythm, you shape the interaction. Control extends to access. Who reaches you, when, and how is never accidental. Control deepens through exposure, through deciding what remains visible and what stays protected. Each decision tightens position. In everyday life, these principles are practical and familiar. Conversations, decisions, conflicts, and opportunities all test awareness. Observation sharpens when reaction is restrained. Patience keeps leverage intact. Strategic positioning turns pressure into advantage. When others play dirty, they rely on chaos, emotion, and speed. When you remain grounded, unreadable, and measured, their tactics lose effect. You remain untouched. Not because you fought harder, but because you stood where they could not reach.